to make Cade Klubnik an elite quarterback in 2024. That's what we're talking about today. Welcome to Clemson Football Live. I'm Brian. I'm glad you're here today. If you're brand new to the channel or you've been watching the channel for a while and you've never subscribed, I hope you will subscribe. It's free. I do appreciate it. Drop a comment in the comments section and let me know that you stopped by. I do appreciate it. It's always good to hear from you. So, in the Greenville News, if you live outside of the upstate of South Carolina, the Greenville News is a very well-known newspaper here in the upstate. They wrote an article, featured an article, Clemson's plan to make Cade Klubnik an elite quarterback after Dabo Swinney saw too many disasters. That's the entire title. And going into this, there's a lot of thoughts that you have. Because last year was just weird. I've talked about this ad nauseum. It was a weird year. It was just weird. That Duke team that we played, okay? That Duke team that we played, most of the ACC didn't have to play that team. You're like, Brian, educate me. Oh, I'm glad you asked me to. All right? And I'm going somewhere with this. Just stick with me, all right? But I want to show you. This is Duke's schedule last year. Okay? Look up there. They beat us 28-7. They beat Lafayette. They beat a terrible Northwestern team. They crush a terrible Connecticut team. They lose to Notre Dame. But remember, this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games into the season. Leonard Riley gets hurt in this game. And yeah, they beat NC State like they did, but look at that. Riley Leonard, from what I can remember, came in to play against Florida State for just a little bit. But, man, he was just in bad shape. They had to pull him. If my memory serves me correct, and I'm pretty sure it does, he never played against Louisville. He didn't play against Wake. He didn't play against North Carolina. He didn't play against Virginia. He didn't play against Pittsburgh. So, my point in telling you this, it was just a weird year because the Duke team that dominated us because we were just mistake-filled, the vast majority of the teams who was on Duke's schedule didn't even have to play that team. So you can look at Cade Klubnik and go, it was like not only was it you that had the problems, it was almost just like, and I don't believe in vibes and good luck and all that bunch of stuff, but it was almost like there was some type of script written for 2023, and it was just bad across the board. Defense played great. You'd have bright moments with an offensive player here or there, Phil Maffa being one of them. But it was just a weird year, so you can't completely pin it on Cade. But when you look at this article, Dabo Swinney talks about, this is according to the article with the Greenville News, Klubnik was sacked 29 times, 8 of which was directly attributed to him, per Swinney's statistical tracking. All right? Also, I'm going to read this per the article. There were times when he was a bit reckless, talking about Cade, when it came to ball security. He was intercepted 9 times. Only 4 were on him, according to Dabo Swinney. All right? So if the ball goes through a wide receiver's hands who is on scholarship to, this is going to be shocking, to catch the football, and the ball goes through his hands, and it bounces up in the air, and Duflachi Jones runs through and picks it off, that's not on Cade Klubnik. It will be counted towards him. But anyone, including the NFL, who is scouting Cade will look and go, that wide receiver didn't do his job. Or that wide receiver ran the wrong route. Some of these plays are so flipping fast, and because we have the power to rewind stuff and slow it down, we think that we know better than the person who's out there on the field who's slinging the ball really, really fast. I mean, a lot of us would be screaming like children if we were out there and we had some of those guys coming after us. So right there, it says only 4 were on him. What that means was there was 5 interceptions that for some reason or the other was not Cade Klubnik's fault. He can't catch the ball, folks. Now, quoting Cade Klubnik, he said, we were just a really young team last year. We had to learn the hard way sometimes, and I had to learn the hard way. That's just how it is. Now, in a video I did earlier this year, It's weird to say, but within the past month, I did a video where I talked about Cade Klubnik and whether he was a bust, whether he was overrated, whether he just inherited a bad situation. And folks, I know that a lot of you, even people that I agree with on a lot of issues, believes that this guy is he's just a bust. It's premature for that, for me. You have what opinion you have of it, but for me, he had a terrible offensive line. The only way that you get a worse offensive line is if you go down to Columbia. I mean, Spencer Rattler was sacked 9 times in the very first game of the year. So my point in saying this is Cade could end up washing out as a Clemson quarterback. We could get the offensive line fixed, which, by the way, it's going to take more than this year. They spent too long of a time with Thomas Austin. Thomas Austin, that job was just too quick, too much for him. I didn't mean that the guy will never be a good offensive line coach. I didn't say he'll never grow into it. It was just too much, too quick for him. You can't blame the guy for taking a job at his alma mater. You can't. So my point in saying all of this is that some of these guys on the offensive line, they're too hardwired up here in the ways of Thomas Austin. They're too hardwired with that, and unfortunately, you're not going to be able to rewire them. You're going to have to get in other recruits. Matt Luke knows this. Anybody who has a football IQ, you don't have to be Nick Saban. You don't have to be Tom Brady. You don't have to be one of the Manning brothers to be able to break this down. You don't have to go play college football or coach football to realize logically that just some people are in an organization for a certain amount of time, and it's just like, I mean, you see it happen at companies. Small, big, large, whatever. Things were ran a certain way. Things are ran a certain way, and then one day they change them. For the better or for worse. And everybody goes, I just can't do it anymore. I'd rather find a new job. And they go find a new job. I have seen this happen as recently as today. I have seen this happen with people. They influence people too long. People are influenced by certain decisions, a certain process, a certain way of doing things, and they can't break out of it. So the offensive line definitely could help Cade Klubnik a lot. I'm just trying to set the expectations for everyone here that I believe that it's going to take much longer than just this season. That's not a shot at Matt Luke. That's just a realistic expectation. Cade Klubnik has played for 2 offensive coordinators. Last year, at times we didn't know who was calling the plays. So if the idea is to make Cade Klubnik an elite quarterback in 2024, the first and foremost thing that needs to happen for Klubnik is that he and his offensive coordinator are working together, and that the offensive coordinator is calling the plays himself, and that he is not in any form or fashion calling anything remotely like the offense from 2020. And I know Trevor and Travis was there and T. Higgins, but you have to remember, Trevor and Travis, they were so good, they could cover up poor play calling. That's how good they are. Really, literally. But you get into 21, 22, we don't want any of that play calling going on. So you want to set this young man up for success, don't call anything like you called in those years at all. We have the new wide receivers coming in. A little too high expectations on what those guys are going to do. Let's continue with the article. This is from Sweeney. The biggest thing was too many disasters, as we call them, sacks and tackles for loss and turnovers. We'll live with 4 interceptions. He throws 4 interceptions next year. Hey, sign me up for that. I'll be a happy guy. That would be an extremely low number. But he had way too many tackles for loss. What that speaks to is pocket presence and pocket awareness. That's where we got to get better. He's got to take care of the ball better. I saw forced passes. I agree. But this guy never lost a game in high school, and he's trying to make up. He tried too hard. You can't fault him for that. Wide receivers aren't getting open, or if his offensive line is basically a bunch of buffet busters that doesn't know how to block, not all of them, but some of them, or if they have poor technique because of a bad coaching hire, Cade Klubnik's got to work with that. Now, here's the deal. He has the misfortune of having to open up against Georgia. I despise Georgia like a toothache. They are a toothache. Those toothaches can play football very well. Kirby Smart is the face of college football right now. Since Nick Saban's gone, he's the face of college football. You may disagree with me. I'm sorry. He's still winning. He is the most elite team in college football right now. Jim Harbaugh is gone. Michigan will have to fend for themselves. The most elite team in college football right now is the Georgia Bulldogs, and we have to start off with them basically at a neutral site home game. And I hate it for Cade. I wish that we started off with somebody like, I don't know, Furman. Follow it up with a Wake Forest. Play Virginia. Let the guys get their feet up under them. And then play the best team in America. One of the most dominant teams in the past 3 years. But all of us hoping and wanting and desiring for Clemson to go back to those 2016, 2018 days, and all the want and desire and being optimistic in the world is not going to change reality on August the 31st at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Going to get to the comments section here. Silver Fox, the O-line will be the key to him being elite. I agree. I just don't think it's going to pull together this year. Thanks for being here. SEC Dog, the best Georgia trash talker that I have. SEC Dog, I'm glad you're here. Cade is the worst quarterback Swinney has ever had. Even Cole Stout was better. No, I don't. No offense to Cole, but I think Cole was misused, but no. Glad you're here at SEC Dog. Still Gamble. Cole Stout, that guy had 9 passing touchdowns in his first year as a starter with 11 interceptions. By the way, Still Gamble, I'm glad you're here. Still Gamble is a member. You see that little symbol right there? He is a member of the Clemson Football Live. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on a monthly basis. $3 or $5, you choose. The join button is below the video. If you're on an Apple product, you may not see it, especially on an iPhone. Thank you so much for supporting. JR the Gent, this is true. Cole Stout was money in the bowl game after they simplified his reads. You are true. Everybody's still arguing. Silver Fox, great question, my friend. By the time the O-line is ready with new recruits, 2 years, Cade will be gone. That's true. So who's next at quarterback? Great question. Vizino has not been developing as fast as they want him to develop. Great question. They have some guys that's committed for 2025, but they still have to grow. Greg Larkin, great question. So do you think Cade can become ready for Georgia? So you don't think Cade can become ready for Georgia, or is it the O-line that won't be ready? Here's a fantastic question. I can answer this fast. Our defense has never stopped playing good. If you ever see our defense start playing bad, go look at the time of possession for our offense. Look at how many times our offense turned over the ball, kind of like the Duke game, and by the time the defense got back out on the field, they were winded, and the opposing offense had the ball deep in Clemson territory. So if we look at when our defense plays bad, most of the time it's because the offense is putting them in a terrible position. So the defense, I think, will play very well against Georgia. I think fatigue is what's going to get them. I think the offense, and you've got guys like Maffa, who I think the world of, Brennan Stoll, who is fantastic. We don't know what those freshman wide receivers are going to do, but I think it's really sad to have to depend on them against Georgia, front runner for the national championship, and rightly so. Cade has picked up bad habits because of the poor play around him and the poor coaching around him, and you can't fix that overnight. The offensive line, once again, they've had poor training, poor development over time. And for some of them, they cannot get that out of their head. Their reaction time is programmed into them. You do something 1,000 times over and over and over, your natural knee-jerk reaction will be to react as you've been trained and as you've been practicing. So I think even with Matt Luke being incredible, this is the danger of allowing inexperienced or too much too soon coaches to come in and stick around a program, because they will waste talent. They will poorly train talent, and that talent can even leave your school and go to another school, and they're still going to carry those bad habits with them. That's why you see some of our wide receivers who's transferred out. They go to other schools, and they can't get any better. Why? They have those bad habits drilled and ingrained in their head. That's what has happened to us at wide receiver. It's just nobody wants to accept it yet. He's a good recruiter. Maybe so. He's not good at developing wide receivers. You better come, if you're a wide receiver, you better come ready to develop yourself. I feel bad for Cade against Georgia. That first game, that's rough. That's 100% right. Cohen Pope, thanks. I'm expecting the defense show out week 1, but I fear the offense might take a smoke break the whole night. Yep, I think they will. Unless Sweeney allows Lincoln Riley, not Lincoln, I keep saying Lincoln. Garrett, my Lord, what an idiot. Garrett Riley to call the plays 100% himself. By the way, remember the last time Garrett Riley coached against Georgia? He lost 65-7. He's got something to prove here, and I hope he does. And I hope Dabo lets him. Dabo doesn't need to call plays. If any of that is true, that he was calling some of the plays last year in hopes that Garrett could learn the Clemson offense, we don't need Garrett learning anything about Clemson's offense. That Clemson offense sucked, and we need Garrett Riley to revamp it. Please, no more of the old. Get rid of that. We'll get the Georgia loss over with early, give the chance to evaluate against the best team in America. Also give Tigers time to claw their way back up the polls. Yes, it's just a corner on what that loss is like. I get what you're saying there, and it's not out of the question. How do they respond? How do they lose the game? That's the question to me. How do they lose the game? All right, getting back to this. Everybody, I have 42 people in here right now. Welcome to Clemson Football Live. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. It's free. If you like what I'm doing, I hope you'll subscribe. If you want to support the channel, there's a join button below. Also, quick announcement. I was contacted by the Ohio podcast. Eric Boggs, he reached out to me. They put together what's called the College Huddle. It's going to launch in April, and it's just basically made up of YouTubers and podcasters who represent various college football teams and just college sports across the board. They reached out to me to be their Clemson representative, and that meant a lot to me. So I'm going to play this quick commercial for the College Huddle. It's going to launch sometime in April, and I'm looking forward to be a part of it. The College Huddle. I am joining them, and I'm looking forward to working with them. And so go over to the Ohio podcast. Yes, he is. I can't speak, y'all. I don't know if I'm having a stroke or something. But the Ohio podcast, yes, he's on YouTube, but he is an Ohio State fan. But he's good people. Go over there and say hello to him. Tell him that I sent him to you. Cade Klubnik, the plan to make him an elite quarterback. Now, if there's any expectations that needs to be tempered right now, it's that one. It's that we're going to see an offensive line who is going to be dominant. Now, I will tell you this. If Matt Luke changes the offensive line that quick, whatever his salary is, double it. Well, that means he'd be paid more than this person. I don't care. Double it. Triple it. But we have an admittance here by Sweeney. Hey, 9 interceptions thrown, 5 of them were not his fault. Here's something else that we need to go back to, and I just want you to break this down. Going back up here to this stat about his how many times he was sacked. He was sacked 29 times, 8 of which were directly attributable to him. So that means 21 times was not his fault. 21 times? And 5 interceptions? Now, he's probably already done this. He's probably already reached out to these guys. But I'm telling you right now, if I'm Cade Klubnik, I am getting to Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson as fast as I can. And I'm going, what's your advice for me? Be brutal. We're not here to win friends and influence people. We're not here to make me feel good about me and myself and I. I am here to get better. Tell me the truth. Now, here's the sad thing about Trevor and Deshaun. Their offenses, including their offensive line, was way better than this. I would love to see Trevor Lawrence play with this offense. Yes, he would still get his because he's Trevor Lawrence. Yes, Deshaun Watson would get his because he's Deshaun Watson. But the truth is, Cade Klubnik is not playing with the same talent that those two guys played with. Go look it up. You'll find out that I'm right. So while everybody is looking at Cade Klubnik going, man, he's awful, and he's terrible, and he's one of the worst quarterbacks we've had, have you looked at the rest of the offense? I mean, you got Phil Maffa, who does an incredible job. You got Jake Brennanstole, who they act like he doesn't even exist half the time. I don't know how you miss him. He's tall as crap. But I'm just saying, Cade Klubnik is not playing with the same talent that Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson was playing with. End of story. Go look at those rosters. Refresh your memory. Oh, by the way, one of the reasons some of you can't remember that is because it is that long ago. 2016. Today is 2024. It's 8 years, guys. We're going on a decade since that 2016 national championship. So we're getting farther and farther away from those years of excellence, especially on the offense. And that's why it's easy to forget this stuff and start looking at Cade going, hey, man, what you doing? Yeah, go look at the dumpster fire that's around him. That's what you should be doing. Once again, not saying that Cade's not going to end up being a bust, but I'm just saying, give the guy a break. Jonathan Benton said, I'm not convinced that, of the Dabo interfering in play calling theory. I think the offense might have looked the same because it had the same weaknesses, no wide receivers and weak O-line. This may be true. I don't know. All I'm saying is, if Sweeney was calling plays, you never called plays. Douglas Spencer, who was our second string quarterback? Christopher Vizina. And unless something started happening in this spring practice, the word coming out is that he's not developing as quickly as they need him to. Now, let's be honest with ourselves. When your past quarterbacks are guys like, I don't know, Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, the bar gets set outrageously high. And I can go ahead and tell you right now, J.J. McCarthy, who just won a national championship, he's no Deshaun Watson, he's no Trevor Lawrence. Quinn Ewers, as much as everybody keeps straining like they're about to pop out a hard turd, he's no Trevor Lawrence and he's no Deshaun Watson. Carson Beck threw for almost 4,000 yards this year. He's not bad at all. But he's no Trevor Lawrence and he's no Deshaun Watson. So, those guys, it's not only for Clemson that the bar has been set high. These guys are unbelievable no matter what school that you're addressing or comparing them to. And overall, in college football history, Clemson had the fortune and the misfortune for the quarterbacks who would come after them of having those two guys within a 3-year period. SEC, dog. Talking more trash. Here we go. So what do I think? I think that the offensive line to fix it overnight is not going to happen. Matt Luke is incredible. It's not going to happen. You'll probably see some improvements as the season goes on. Opening up with Georgia, terrible. Terrible, folks. 2 freshman wide receivers having to get their feet under them against Georgia, very first game. Very, very unrealistic. Hey, I hope my Tigers I hope I'm wrong on this, folks. I hope they make me wrong. I hope that I have to get on here and say, you know what? Even if they lost, they played a really good game. The future's bright for 2024. There's a 12-team playoff. We can make it. We can get better by the end of the season. I hope I get to say that. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not sold on that. Show me, baby. I want to see it. I want the proof. Because football logic, and once again, you don't have to be Nick Saban, have the brain of Nick Saban. You don't have to be Tom Brady. You don't have to play 25 years of football for you to know what you're talking about. All you have to be is just a decent person have the decent ability to be analytical and logical at the same time. Stop singing the Tiger fight songs. Stop humming the Tiger rag. It doesn't make you a bad person to live in reality. Yes, I'm hopeful for my team. Reality tells me, the same reality that tells me that if I stand in the road while a dump truck is speeding towards me, that same reality that says I'm dying as soon as it gets here and hits my body and crushes it, probably flings it to a hilarious distance, killing me instantly, is the same reality that is telling me that Clemson, on the offensive side of the ball, still has so many things to address, no matter if they did hire Matt Luke, because the problem runs that deep. That's the reality. That's the logic. Hope I'm wrong. Hope the dump truck doesn't hurt. Plan to make him elite. Tell you what they need to plan to do. Give him something to work with. Talking about tempering expectations, that's the one that I would temper. Take as much off of this young man's plate. Take as much heat off of this guy, starting with the offensive line, throwing in an extra blocker who's not afraid to hit. Getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Could we get rid of the quick pass out in the flats? Because we're not good at blocking out on the edge. You know it, I know it. That's the only time that works. And a lot of times that play doesn't work. You'll get that the numbers are in their favor. I had somebody come on here and tell me the numbers are in their favor only if they block. If you're so good at scheming, you would consider that right off the bat. Are we good at blocking out on the edge? Nope. Well, then throw that quick pass out there in the flats, throw it in the trash, wipe with it, flush it down the toilet. It's not going to work. Folks, thank you so much for joining me here. If you like what I'm doing, I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll pass it along. Hey, look, even if you don't like Clemson, but you like college football, I talk about other college football teams. So I hope that you'll come in here because, hey, remember, Clemson fans, what happens in the college football world? We're not immune from it. So whatever's going on out there does affect us in Tiger Town. Quickly, Slim Shady Canes, haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Folks, tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right. Tell me why I'm indifferent. But I ask you this. Be specific. Be specific. If you dislike what I'm saying and you're like, you're a bad fan, you're spoiled, that's not specific. I mean, there's 3-year-olds who they don't even know how to take a dump good, who could argue better than that. So give me a specific reason why. And if you agree with me, tell me why. I really do appreciate it. Folks, good or bad, it is always good to be a Tiger. Go Tigers.